You cheat with the guy I hate the most. I can play that too. So I went to use my wife's phone, and she had Facebook up, and she was talking to this jerk with whom I used to be close friends. A little history on the guy. He was from the old area, so we became friends over basketball, and I would defend him from problems. But as time passed, I saw he was into ladies younger than him, so I couldn't be friends with or involved with that. We got into a fight. He had to have his jaw wired shut, and that was the last of him. So my ex-wife was chatting to him, and she is somewhat naive. She didn't realize he was flirting with her. He suggested they meet for coffee on Wednesday, and she accepted. At the time, she and I were going through a hard stretch. We married at a young age of 19, but I felt she was the one for me, and we've had 3 children since then. I phoned my supervisor and explained that I need Wednesday off due to family circumstances, and he says it's all right. They decided to meet at Starbucks after I read her texts again. So, when it was time for them to meet, I pretended to leave to work but waited outside a block away, saw he picked her up, and went to a downtown Starbucks. I follow them there and remain in the vehicle. At the same time, I'm messaging all of my pals, telling them that the old me has returned and explaining what's going on. 2 of my friends are attorneys, and they gladly assisted me in drafting a separation agreement and initiating divorce proceedings. I follow the out of Starbucks and notice that they are on their way to his home. Now, I just park and wait 2 minutes before knocking, so when I knock, I hide down so they can't see me through the peephole, and when I hear the door opening up, I barge in and he looks at me like he saw a ghost. I see my ex-wife in her bra, and all I say is, "So, this is what you do in your spare time," and I leave. She rushes me outside, screaming, claiming she has no idea what's going on with her, and that they didn't have sex, but I immediately urged her to duck, don't come back to the house, and if I see you with him, I'll ask him what will happen. As I'm going, he tosses her out, and I can see he's terrified, which, to be honest, I've done horribly in the past. But he knows me, he knows the trash I've done, and he knows what I'm capable of. I go to her Facebook page and see a message from him that says, "Keep the duck away from me." She attempts to return inside the home, and I warn her that if she goes any farther into the house, I would tell her whole family what she did. She comes out screaming, begging for her belongings, and I simply dumped that rubbish outside and ordered her to go away. One of my friends, who happens to be a policeman, came to my home and said the piece of trash filed a restraining order against me and my wife, requiring us to remain 100 feet away from him. He understood what was happening and told me how certain words got to some people, how the piece of trash had a ducked up fetish, and how he was avoiding some individuals, and he happened to be dropped off at the old area after he filed the restraining orders. I told him I wanted a restraining order against my wife until we divorced. Soon I tell the kids how we won't be seeing mom for a long, and I phone her from an app telling her she can say explained herself to the kids and she can have the kids on the weekend, but to keep away from me. I cut her off before she starts the entire "I'm sorry, forgive me" nonsense. As we go through the divorce, we had to go through an online course for the kids, which was the most stupid $20 I've ever spent. We get everything sorted. The court decided that the prenup is legal, so the bit doesn't receive any alimony. We sell a home and share the proceeds 50/50. I used half of my money to acquire a great loft and still had enough money to get a new automobile. We're in court now, and the judge asks, "Do you guys really have everything settled?" I'm happy to say yes, but she bursts out crying again, saying she's not this and that, and as a result, we had to go to child support, where kids have to say where they want to live, and I considered telling them how mommy doesn't believe in Santa Claus, but I didn't. I agreed weekends to have the kids since she didn't work, and she went to live with her parents, who have more than enough money to support all of the kids, but because of my job, I can't pick up 2 of them from school and keep a 2-year-old at my workplace, but I was glad. When her younger sister came over to bring off the kids, she inquired how I was doing. I quickly took advantage of it and told her how lonely and unhappy I was since I had lost the one true love of my life. Her sister stayed over and cooked dinner for the kids and she remained after to speak. I told her how much I missed her sister, but what she did isn't forgivable, and she agreed, and then we began kissing, which led to sex. I started working out to get in better shape and maintain a relationship with her sister until one day when I FaceTimed her, and my ex-wife was nearby, and she heard my voice, and all I heard was them 2 arguing about how she betrayed her, and how my ex apparently told her to see if there was any chance of them getting back together. To be honest, I had forgiven my ex-wife, but I didn't want to speak to or see her. Her relatives took turns bringing the kids over, and then I told her cousins the tale, and with one of them, I began to be FWB with them. My ex-wife then came over once, but I ordered her to wait outside since she is not permitted inside. She attempted to explain that she had gone to counseling and that she was a new person who simply wanted a chance. I forgave her, but she began to irritate me since I was over her. I accidentally mentioned how I slept with her cousin, which caused her to scream, so I sent her outside to cry. Now, I've moved on. I'm FWB with 2 gals. I date either of them, and I'm still young, just 29 years old. My ex-wife had fallen into horrible condition, while I was always going to the gym and working on myself. I mean, I miss a lot of what she's done for me, but what she did was wrong, and I'll never forget it. Story 2. Hurting. Wife continues to cheat. Not sure what to do. My wife of the years won't quit cheating. I discovered 2 improper interactions she had outside of our marriage in 2017. While I was away for business, they took pictures and met in person. I hired a private investigator to confirm that a man was coming to my home while I was away, and we were able to apprehend him. I filed for divorce about a month later and went through what was perhaps the most difficult period of my life. During this time, we both went to counseling separately, and I began to reconsider leaving. We had 2 young children, and damaging their lives felt nearly as horrible as infidelity, so I put the divorce off. My wife has been in treatment on and off since then, and apart from the ordinary marital troubles, our lives have been normal, or so I thought. She called me another man's name last month while we were having. I brushed it off since we'd both been drinking. Another night, after she'd been drinking and taking Ambien, she began talking to me as if I were a different person. I approached her politely during the Thanksgiving holiday. I provided her with instances of my thinking. She denied everything once I gave her a particular name. She expressed her love for me and our family. She maintained this certainty for a few days. 2 weeks following this occurrence, I learned through my children that the above-mentioned man has been coming around. When I challenged her again, she confessed to having an improper connection with him and lying about it. There was no intercourse, but there was in visiting at his and our homes. You'd think this was the lowest point, but it wasn't. For 2 days we spoke and sobbed. We decided to go back to marital therapy and try again. I inquired whether there was anybody else. Before attempting to mend things, I wanted to be certain that all of the cards were on the table. We were thrilled on Christmas Day, chatting about how to mend our marriage and how much we loved each other. I was nervous but optimistic that we could make things work. She passed out after a beautiful evening with our families, and I decided to check at her phone. To say the least, surprising. First, I discovered that she'd been messaging the aforementioned man only hours earlier. She told him how much she missed him and how much she wanted he was here. She said that all she wanted to do was tell him how much she loved him. Second, I discover she's been messaging another man. Messages missing him and her desperate want to see him again, all the while she professes her love for me and our family. It turned out that the second man and I had been dating for months. Unimaginable conversations, photos, and arrangements to meet. She did. In fact, drive hours away from my parents' place on 2 occasions to see her relatives and meet up with him. One instance occurred on the previously described Thanksgiving trip. There was more. Other males were in there. There was nothing graphic, but there was clearly improper conversation and mention of seeing one other again. Heartbroken, approached her with evidence once again. She claims that there is something wrong with her. She's not sure why she's doing it, but she wants to remain together. She claims she has had no intercourse with any of them. What are you going to do? It seems that trust in this relationship has died. It breaks my heart to think of my children growing up in a divorced family. Is there a medical condition that causes this? We have some marital troubles, but they are minor: stress, kids, money. We have a lot of energy that isn't dull. What would your reaction be? I adore her, but am I a fool? Update. After reading the comments thus far, I just wanted to provide some extra information. No paternity test is required. We had to undergo IVF since she couldn't conceive on her own. She is continuing in counseling and has disclosed the other males to her therapist. Her therapist pushed her to stop and notify me, but that clearly did not happen. She has acknowledged to past forms of infidelity prior to our relationship/marriage. Basically, she liked non-monogamy relationships while she was in her mid-20s. Prior to our relationship, she acknowledged to being the other woman in affairs. She is a wonderful mother to our children who adore her. What I need to accomplish is self-evident. She is a serial cheater. to the attention and thrill of being pursued. This doesn't help matters. I thought she was my soulmate. Heartbroken.